knowing who I am and what and what we value the most helps to give me a framework for balance.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited. I have another mentor with me today. We are just rolling with all these beautiful mentors, these female mentors that are doing the Olemi mentorship program. And it just makes it even more exciting because I don't know if you know this, Dana, but we're starting season 3 already. And it's just like, wow, we've
Wow.
been doing this for going on 3 years, right? So we have this
Excellent.
amazing woman with us today, Dana Berlin, who happens to be the vice president of commercial real estate lenders for Spencer Savings Bank in New Jersey. So we're going to find out from Dana where she's from, how she got into this, and does she actually enjoy it? Go ahead, Dana.
Oh my goodness. By the way, I totally enjoy it, first of all.
Okay.
And the way that I got into it is actually, I find it to be interesting because like so many people,
Okay.
it was not a clear and completely direct path. So I feel like that should be encouraging for other people. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, and went
Mm.
to a fantastic Jewish elementary school and high school there. I am so appreciative and thankful to them. It was just an incredible, very mind-opening and engaging experience where we were expected to do really well academically and to be very good people. Like to have good character traits and be
Awesome.
good people who are participating and contributing to society. So I was fortunate to go to the Wharton School of Business, University of Pennsylvania undergrad. I love organizations, management, leadership. So I was majoring in management. And actually, one time I was sitting alone in a study hall, like really, really deep in preparation for some exam. And one of the guys from Hillel put his head in the room and he goes, "Hey, I heard you're majoring in management. Once you're already at the Wharton School of Business and Finance, you should really have a major with the word finance in it." And I was like, "Oh, thanks for the tip." It was so random. But it was like, it's so interesting because it was so important. I thought about it seriously and I figured corporate finance was totally not for me. Absolutely not. But I totally understood where this guy's comment was coming from. And I figured I might as well maximize this opportunity that I'm in right now. So I looked up real estate finance and realized, hey, I think this might interest me. And I started out, I went first to an architecture class and realized that I love the mortars, the bricks and mortar, like physical structures of real estate. And so that was what I ended up studying, real estate finance as well as management. And then I ended up going to an investment bank where I did these very large mortgages, and eventually made my way. For many years, I was a financial analyst. So I was like crunching numbers and reviewing things. And then thankfully, finally, at one point when I was actually, interestingly, working part-time for a very small family-owned business, one of their more senior people was just out to lunch, literally in every way. Like he would hardly work. So I stepped up and started doing a lot more and taking a lot more ownership. And because I was always thinking about these numbers that I was crunching and the things that I was doing. And then they started having me write these narratives where you're talking about like the thought process behind why do we want to make this loan or why don't we want to make this loan and what are the concerns? And so I got to actually, bring up questions and talk about what could be a solution to them. And this small mom and pop shop that was, by the way, not making small mom and pop money. They were making major, major money. They allowed me that, taking ownership of these deals. They did not pay me for it. But it was great in terms of expanding my abilities, my skill set, and my confidence. So right at 2008, actually, I was like, what is going on? Why am I working for this piddly, small, part-time financial analyst salary when I could be doing that guy's job? The guy who was always taking walks and never doing any work. So I asked for the job. I was told yes, but like whatever it was, bottom line, 2008 like happened in full force, and that was totally off the table. So I was like, oh, so where I thought I was going to be taking a lot of steps forward, totally didn't happen. And various different things happened all at once in our lives. So like my husband was finishing graduate school and we were moving, and so I ended up like I thought I was totally actually finally going in this path that I was so excited about. And I ended up finding banking as opposed to these investment banks, and realized that there could be something called customer service, which I had always loved, but was completely lacking at these huge investment banks. So I ended up in a smaller community bank, realized I really liked it, but then still continued doing this financial analyst and underwriting, like very numbers oriented, very detailed, but not customer facing. And then finally, one day, it really was like 1 week. I remember when I was already here at Spencer Savings Bank, there were lenders who were like complaining. They were like, oh, we can't get any business done, and just complaining, no solutions, only complaints. And they were not doing anything. They were just sitting. So I was like, I could find solutions. So I spoke up and, said, I want to be a lender. And people were like, what? How could you be a lender? You don't have connections, this, that, and the other, all these excuses. So I wrote a whole rebuttal explaining to them why I could totally do it. And we've all benefited. The bank has benefited and I've benefited, and it's tons of fun. Right now happens not to be tons of fun because banking is rough right now. But in general, it's really, what's cool is that I get to be very straightforward with people. Yeah, I enjoy it.
Wow. Wow. I could tell that you're very passionate about it. That's awesome. I mean, your mentee must be having a blast with you. There's so much. I already took notes, so much of the things that you said. So first of all, it's obvious you must have liked math in school because you seem like a numbers person. Like you just got so excited by the numbers. I was like,
So what's really interesting is no, not specifically. Like I didn't
really?
really like math. I didn't really like math, and I definitely did not naturally excel at math. So I
Oh,
worked very, very hard. I definitely had to like psych myself up. Um,
oh,
like I remember one time, again, school was great. I was doing some sort of high school calculus, and I was working
yeah.
so hard. And the problem was so long. It just went on for pages, like pages. And I remember I got to the end of it and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just won a boxing match, which of course I've never done boxing or anything, but I was like, well,
Really?
it was a very cool feeling of accomplishment because I felt like I had to keep trying and trying and try. Like every time I was like, oh my God, there's another level and another. I'm so glad I don't have to do anything like that anymore. It's making my heart race just thinking about
Okay.
it. So
Okay.
what ends up happening in many jobs, not all jobs, is that once you know the fundamentals, usually you don't end up using a lot of numerical concepts, or at least you don't use new ones very much. Like you walk into a workplace and they're like, here's our Excel spreadsheet with all the templates.
Wow. There you go. Makes it
So yeah,
easier.
I had to study a lot of math, but no,
It's
it
like
wasn't
it's
really
like
my
having
strong
the
point. And I
formula.
actually, you know what?
Right? It's like having those formulas. Like when you take a certain test, like I don't know, one of the regions we used to take, we'd have the formulas in advance, and then so that's the template type of thing that you have. You just have all those
Right,
formulas or templates. Oh, got it.
right.
Okay. Now the other thing that I thought was so interesting, you said about this guy who just popped in his head and gave you that word of advice that you have to have that
Right.
finance. He's like a mentor in disguise.
And now he's actually a neighbor. Well, not like next
Oh,
door,
that's
but
so
yeah, lives
funny.
nearby. I know, I think it's
Oh,
really funny.
see. Wow, such a small
Yeah,
world. I'm sure you've said thank you to him.
many times over, mostly to his
Okay.
wife.
Okay. And then
Right?
yeah, correct. And then part of that story that you were mentioning, how you really were psyched up that you thought you were going to get that job. You had said that you were taking over
Yes,
for this guy who was going for these walks, and then you didn't get it. How'd you deal with that
right?
rejection? Especially since you were already doing it. How do you deal with that?
So actually, that rejection was easy because it was the industry. It wasn't me.
Mhm.
Um, I've dealt with other rejection in other scenarios, which I found to be much more challenging. And it's so interesting because I'm like, oh, if it would happen to me now that I know more people and now that I understand better how things work, I feel like I would have dealt better.
Mhm.
There was one time when, oh my God, and it's so funny, by the way, like thankfully, I'm such a confident person, but I still really don't like talking about this because who likes to dwell on
Okay.
rejection? I'm always
I
like
know, but
optimism, look forward. So
yeah, but
there
others
was
will learn
one
from
time
you.
when
Go ahead.
there was one time when I got accepted for a job and I told them, I said, my training, you think that because I went to business school, I know exactly how to do this, but I know that my training does not line up exactly with what you want me to do. So I'm excited that you're offering me the job and I'm happy to take it. And you have to provide me with this credit training. And they said, sure, no problem. They hired me and they never provided me with the training.
Mm.
So not acceptable. It was so frustrating. So they just let me fail, which was ridiculous. It was not never what we all agreed to. Um, but unfortunately, I didn't really know the extent to which I should have been like, wait, let me show you my emails and let's document everything. Instead, they were like, you don't know this and this, so we're firing you. So that was lousy. Like that was really, really lousy. But I did turn to the lady who fired me. I remember like they literally walked me out of the building and I turned to her. I was full of nothing, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm going to do something awesome. I
Oh, I
walked out to
love
my car and
that.
burst out crying.
I
Totally burst out
love
crying. I was
that.
like, I have no idea what I'm going to do.
Okay, but you saved face. Good for you. Good for you. And you know what I also loved? When you spoke about that other job that you were at, and you said that everyone was having these problems, and you said, let's focus on the solutions. And you
Completely.
did. And look where it got you. You when a person, like you said, that
Right.
positive mindset got you to a certain forward thinking, even though you've been through some rejections, and it seems like you've learned from those
Absolutely.
mistakes. So it's really
Right.
very beautiful. Wow, wow. Now, if you have to look back, when we talk about this whole concept of mentors, and we made a joke that that guy who popped his head in was like a mini mentor. Have you ever had a mentor in your life?
Completely. And I still do. And I'm so
Oh, let's hear
thankful.
it.
I have many, I guess, actually. Um, I have teachers like Mrs. Hannah Silver, who lives in Israel and is an amazing, amazing teacher. And I'm in very close touch with her and have been ever since junior high school.
Oh,
So
wow, that's
I've asked her
beautiful.
all kinds of questions. And, it's so interesting because one of the many questions that I saw you're like questions to think about. One was like, what are you most proud of? But I'm not most proud of anything. And I'm also, thank God, not done. Like I have goals that I'm working on
Okay, I
now.
got that.
But I'm
Okay,
very
good.
proud of like all the very small decisions, which I feel like aggregate to comprise what my life is now. So among those is like one time in particular, I asked Mrs. Silver, I was like, hey, if people don't say hi to me in the grocery store, or if I know that if I say hi to someone and they're not going to respond, what do you think? Can I just like quit saying hi to everyone? And she
Oh
was like,
no.
it's really nice that you're from the Southeast. I think you should just keep being friendly, even if people are surprised and don't know how to respond. So I took that to heart and I
Oh,
was like, okay, I'll do that. It felt hard at the time. And now I'm like, it's so much more me. So these small things, as well as the really big decisions, make a big difference. Or my parents, I'm so blessed that I really value my parents' input and their judgment. My father is great at helping me maintain perspective, like especially when things are difficult. He'll be like, the world has been around a long time, industries have been around a long time. If this doesn't work out, something else will work out, even if we don't know what it is. So I have them as well. Um, yeah.
wow. So I love that. I love that a teacher from junior high is still considered your mentor. Being someone that used to be a junior high teacher, I just love that. That warms my heart. And just to give you a little tidbit, I once heard this beautiful thought when it talks about Aro being Ohev Shalom and Rodev Shalom, someone who loves peace and chases peace. and they gave it such a concrete, beautiful analogy to it. A person who initiates the hello is a rodef shalom, is somebody who chases after peace, and someone who responds is somebody who loves peace. So either way you're going to do it, you're still like Aaron. So keep on going, Dana. Keep on
Awesome.
going. And then I love also that your parents are your mentors. And I think that's so beautiful. It's a testament to them, good parenting, raising good children. And that's really beautiful when somebody could see their parents as good mentors towards them. I love that also.
Totally.
Really, really. How about professionally? Did you ever have a mentor professionally?
I actually probably wish that I had more professional mentorship.
Mm,
Probably
yeah,
it's been
yeah,
partly like the challenge of female moving,
hmm,
like meaning I've moved
yeah,
from different, right? I lived in Georgia and worked there at banking. Now I've been in New Jersey. I haven't necessarily bounced around a lot there. Um, so
right here. I think that's what's something
I'm
interesting
happy that
about. Yeah, go.
I'm happy that I can try to provide that for others.
Right, that's what I was just about to say. That I said I think that's what's so interesting about the program that we have at Olami. Exactly what I was thinking is that this is sometimes a little bit unique, where these mentees come into this program, this mentorship program, and they could get a little bit of flavor of the professional mentorship because we try to match them based on that commonality. But then they get that Mrs. Silver type of idea, hopefully a little parenting mentorship going on. You know what I mean? It's just really the whole person. We call it the 360, but we try to give something that maybe somebody never had before, and that's really very
Right?
special. I love that. I love that. Now, going back in your mind, have you ever been given advice besides put finance on your title? Has there been any other words of wisdom, nuggets that really have made an impact on your life that you've received?
Right. So we definitely have like mantras in my family. Um,
Okay.
like my husband now, who's a psychologist, talks about being solutions oriented and not feeling like or acting or behaving like a victim, right? If you don't like something, do whatever you can to change whatever you can change, whatever influence you can have. That's one thing that comes also very much that's aligned with also my parents' parenting, which is you make your own bed, like if you decide to fail a class, well, there are going to be consequences and you're going to suffer them. Um, those are definitely some of them. I don't have a whole lot more, but I definitely, I do value all the small lessons that I've learned along the way.
Yeah, that's a strong one about consequences. I find the youth today, I don't know, that's just my experience from all the years in the classroom. They don't necessarily get the concept of consequences.
Right.
There's always extended deadlines, extended deadlines, extended deadlines, and it's like no, like cut off anymore. So that's an important lesson because I don't know how far that takes you in the real world. So yeah.
Yeah,
Now we
definitely in the
have
real world, there are definitely real consequences.
now let's talk a little bit about Judaism. How does
For sure.
being an observant Jewish woman fit into your life work balance? I mean, it sounds like you have a super amazing, high pressured, responsible job, and yet you're a mom running a Jewish home. How do you fit it all in?
Right. So first of all, that's really the core of my whole identity and the whole purpose of our life, right? Is to be a a Jew who's keeping the Torah and serving God. Like that's the point of everything. Okay. So my feeling is that what comes first is serving Hashem appropriately, like doing everything in a way that's kosher and acceptable. Um, I choose in terms of balance, family first. So that means that like we have family dinner every night and we don't have our cell phones at the table every night. Okay, that's in addition to Shabbos table, which we could talk about separately. Um, obviously, I work full time, so I'm not available to drop my hat for my kids. but I do make sure that when I am supposed to be available for them, I really, really am. And I try to pay attention to them. And if I'm not going to, I know it's getting like much more granular than I wanted to, but if I'm not going to because I'm responding to somebody because they want to talk about a loan because we're supposed to be closing tomorrow and like they have urgent issues, or better yet, we're supposed to be closing next week and they have urgent issues, then I'll tell my kids like, what? You need to wait. I'm going to take 7 minutes. I'm going to think while I respond to this person, and then I'm going to turn my attention back to you. But again, like for the most part, I'm really thankful that I'm able to balance this, like, 8:30 to 5 job with whatever happens on the other ends of those working hours. I feel like I'm able to balance that well with family. Now, I was just talking to some of my coworkers and telling them that I'm about to participate in a Sheva Brachos, in a big dinner party that I'm helping to throw with a friend. I said, I can't believe I did this. I agreed to make this and this. And they're like, Dana, you always do this. I'm like, yeah, I have to remind myself, like, I'm in charge of paper goods and drinks, not the cooking. But everybody has that, Anyway, so I feel like I'm able to. I actually feel like knowing who I am and and what we value the most helps to give me a framework for balance. That's really ultimately what I feel like. Like being able to say family is first, that gives me balance. Knowing that Shabbos is Shabbos and like I'm off limits, Friday night activities are not, events and dinners and whatever, those are not happening, fine. There also are challenges. So it's actually interesting because I feel like my professional role and my success in my professional role is actually almost a direct outcome of the challenges and limitations that I feel like I have being Orthodox, Jewish, and female. So for example, like it's common knowledge that a great way to get business done is to go play golf with someone, have drinks and a meal with them, and like talk about business and bring in some deals. Well, I'm not going to do that because I'm not going to drink with them, and I could sit and have meals with people, but I don't want to do too much of that. I don't really, and I certainly don't want to go like just myself with another man and like sit down and have a meal. It's a business meal, but like it's really not what I want to do. So instead, I was always like, okay, I have to find a way to do things on my own terms. So that required me to be very thorough. Originally, it was like painstaking, like figuring out where I could find data mostly for free, and then figuring out clever ways to sort it and figure out who the players are, who owns real estate, and then getting in front of them, which generally meant that I would go to their office to literally like meet with them. I was able to be very successful in that way, which is great. I don't necessarily have to do that cold calling and prospecting in the same way right now. And anyway, the terms of all that have changed because you could show up to someone's office and they may not have been there for 3 years because then now they work remote, they are their own boss. But I did just have to figure out different ways of doing things. And it turned out to be very, very successful. So my choice was I'm going to be very professional and also still personable, meaning I know something about their personal life. I may not know like their son's name and what they do, but I know that they have kids and I know that I know small things about them so that I could talk to them. And the main thing is that when I'm talking to my customers or to a prospective customer, I'm also listening to them to hear what they want. This is like a sales pitch thing, okay? You listen to what they want and what they need and then respond to it by either saying, I don't offer that, I can offer that, and here's why I'm the best fit, or something else like, I don't currently offer that. I know of a few others who do, so I'm going to refer you to these other places. People appreciate that, more than being friends with your like fake friends or superficial friends with your banker. More importantly is that you're getting the results that you need, and they can go off and make their own friends in some other capacity. So it still frustrates me because I'm like, oh, if I could go to all these dinners and I could go to all these golfing events and I could go to drinks and whatever, like I would pick up so much more business. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I have bitachon. I have trust that my livelihood comes from God. I'm going to do everything that I can in a manner that I feel is the appropriate and correct way to do it. And so far, it's been fine and great.
I love that. I love that you said you do things on your own terms. And it's obvious you do things on your own terms professionally. And like you said, you gave that example of making that party. You want to participate in things in your community and with your friends, but you just have to know your terms. Like you have to remind yourself, you're going to do the paper goods, and then you can participate. So I love that. And I
Correct.
love that you said professionally, also on your own terms. Yeah, you want to be professional and personable at the same time, but you don't want to encroach on your own boundaries, whether they be your religious boundaries, and that you get respected for it. And I think that's awesome. And I think
Right.
that's an amazing lesson for everybody in all areas, whether it be something religion related or not. People have to know how to set boundaries in all aspects of our
Absolutely.
lives. And it sounds like you're doing a great job with that. That probably adds to your success. So that's awesome.
Thanks.
Now that we have You're welcome. We have some mentee questions that they like. We ask them like, "What would you want to know from a super mentor?" And I would definitely consider you a super mentor right now. So I'm going to see what. Let's see what questions. Here we go. You ready? One
Totally.
question I'll do right now. Okay, how do you personally get through tough times? Like, what do you do for yourself to get through a tough time?
Um, Exercise, try to sleep, and pray,
Oh, I
and deep
love that.
breathing.
I love that. Exercise. Okay, what'd you say was the last one?
Deep breathing.
Oh, deep breathing.
You know, like
Okay,
yoga.
let's review that. Okay, exercise. You said good sleep. That's important because it probably just adds to more anxiety.
And
Praying and deep breathing. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's a good starting point to get through difficult times. 100%. What do you find is your purpose in this life? What do you see when you look at it?
so again, I'm really thankful. The key and the main thing is that I'm here to serve Hashem, to serve God. Um, so I don't have to create that, right? Like we have 613 mitzvos, commandments that we're supposed to do. Um, as life progresses, I think we all find that like, oh, I feel like my role is this right now. And that shifts and it changes over time, right? Um, but the main thing is to be a good and honest person who's serving God. Now, I'm so thankful that years ago I had to do all my giving was at home, right? Like it was my kids needed me and I wanted to be present and at home. Now, my kids don't need me as much. Like they make their own lunches. So I have more time to give to other people, which is great. Like I said, it's just a benefit of the shifting roles over time.
Yeah, it is nice when the kids get older. I think what is that famous saying? Small children, small problems, big children, big problems. Right now, it's their physical needs are not as bad, it's their emotional needs. I'm sure you know exactly what
Yep.
I'm talking about as a mom. um, uh, what would you consider three lessons that you want to impart to your children that you hope that they gained from you?
Right. So we talk about this every week at our Shabbos table, and we touch upon it a lot also on our in our weekly dinner, you know, weekly nightly dinners. We talk about making choices and making good choices and making the right choices and being honest and truthful. So I think it's the same thing that I said throughout this video, which is be a good Jewish person. Be a good person who's kind to other people. Don't be self centered and be happy and confident.
Oh, I love that. Now, you just touched on something which I want to ask you about. You have nightly family dinners?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I know unless people are listening to this and I'm the crazy one, I know growing up for me, we would have, the Shabbat dinner, so it would be Friday and Saturday, and then growing up we would also get a Sunday dinner in. But after that, I don't recall ever having a sit-down meal with the family because we were all on different schedules once school, set in. And I think raising my own kids, I try to keep the Sunday night. I think the only time where I actually got meals in with everyone besides Shabbat was COVID, because everybody
That
was
makes sense.
trapped and we were all in the same house 24/7. But otherwise, I don't. My kids were on totally different schedules. The husband, the kids. So how do you do that? I need to understand. Go for it.
Well, we do laugh because we're like, a lot of times we're like, how many people are here tonight? But the constant is that I'm there.
Oh,
My
I
husband's
love
there.
that.
Um,
Oh,
and
I love that. I
and
love that.
and most of the time there's good freshly cooked food. That's also a good draw. Not always.
Mm, okay. Yeah, like you said,
Most
you have to
nights.
know on your terms. Your terms.